Interesting story with you running for a state attorney general here. You had a lawsuit, an election integrity lawsuit. But I was wondering if you could explain to listeners this morning what the issue was. When you hear election integrity, this is pretty important stuff.
Well, there's a statute in Oregon that says immediately after 8 p.m. on election night, the county clerk shall destroy all unused absentee and regular ballots. It's been a part of Oregon law for decades, the idea that is on election night, we want to get rid of all the blank ballots so there's not a temptation around for people who want to adjust the votes over time.
Okay. It sounds like a reasonable law. Is there wiggle room in the interpretation as far as to when the ballots must be destroyed?
The next sentence of the law said that the county clerk shall provide for the security of and account for the unused ballots. And the judge said, well, gosh, I don't know how you provide for the security of something and account for it after you destroy it. So I think the statute's in conflict, and I don't know how to interpret it. And gosh, we should just let the Secretary of State do whatever they want.
So this is, now, did you file suit, or was it someone in connection with your campaign filing suit?
I was the lawyer, and there were 4 election integrity people who were interested in election integrity who were the plaintiffs.
Okay. And so the judge basically said, don't worry about that pesky stack of blank ballots that are sitting in there in the election offices after 8 o'clock. No big deal, nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. Move along. It's just depressing.
Okay. Is this something which has caused problems in the past? I'm kind of curious if this was a solution in search of a problem. I mean, just to be fair here, James.
Well, let me tell you a little story, okay? There was a candidate named Delia Lopez who ran for Congress in the district that included Multnomah County. She has a Hispanic name, so she advertised rather heavily on Hispanic radio. She wasn't a very successful candidate. According to them, she got 20% of the vote. But in some of the Hispanic precincts, where people had called her up after the election crying, saying, I don't know how you lost, everybody I know voted for you, she got 13%. So she called for a recount based on, picking some of these precincts where it didn't make any sense at all. And the shredding company had been scheduled to come and pick up the blank ballots on December 3rd. December 2nd, she calls for the recount. The first thing that happens is that Multnomah County immediately cancels the shredding company, telling them that they can't shred the blank ballots because of the recount.
What?
I kid you not.
But the blank ballots are not supposed to be used, and they're null and void after 8 o'clock or after the election is officially over.
Yeah. So we present this whole story to the judge, and the director of Multnomah County Elections gets up and says, even though I was on vacation at the time, I issued that order because I was concerned about the perception of how it would look if someone had called for a recount and the shredding truck came and shredded all the ballots.
But it wasn't shredding all the ballots. It was shredding the blank ballots that weren't supposed to be used anyway.
Yes, I know, but you're thinking. You can't do that in this area. You just have to, the government is always right, I mean, whatever they say, that's how you become a judge. The government is always right.
Okay, so what happens now at this point? Are there appeals processes?
Well, there could be an appeal, but the legislature, in its infinite stupidity, has declared that citizens who dare to challenge this sort of thing may have to pay the legal expenses of the government, and it looks like the government, on account of this one-day hearing, is going to claim some $20,000 or maybe $40,000 in attorney fees, and the people who are involved, I don't think, can afford to take the risk of that. So I think we'll just have to give up and go home with our tail between our legs and go back to the legislature and say, well, if you guys care about election integrity, you have to change the statute so it says immediately after 8 p.m. on election night, destroy all the unused ballots, and prior to that time, maintain their security.
Now, see, that would seem to be
account for them.
That would seem to be the way to take care of this problem moving forward. That way, all right, so it's election day, and so they secure the unused ballots. They have them there. 8 o'clock, boom, dump them in the hopper, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, is that...
Well, it's not exactly 8 o'clock, because the other thing that went on is they whined and complained for about 2 hours of how there was occasionally there are people who show up at the elections office at 7:59 and 59 seconds without a ballot or anything.
Okay.
And gosh, if the shredding company that were there at 8, these 10 or 20 people would be deprived of their right to vote. You can fix that too. But again, it all comes down to whether you have government officials who are acting with common sense and are willing to, interpret the statutes in a reasonable way, or whether you have, these pod people from the planet government who think that everything that the government does is just right all the time, no matter what.
All right. James Buchal running for Attorney General.